All right, well, welcome everyone to the Power Champion panel on IBM AIX 35th anniversary discussion. We have several top experts from the industry joining us today who are fellow IBM champions. I like to call them Power Champions. It seems like that gives them even more force in the industry. We're excited to bring you this live webinar today from Help Systems and really IBM, and I want to thank IBM for reaching out to us to say what kind of thing could we do to celebrate the AIX 35th anniversary. Well, I right away thought about my history with some of my fellow Power Champions, and here we are today to share our expertise on the marketplace and what's been happening with AIX technology, and what better thing to do than to bring these great leaders in the IBM AIX field. These are all either customers or business partners of IBM that have been working from around the globe to help promote and help customers technically on the platform. So introducing from left to right, we first of all have Miss Jackie Lynch coming from North Carolina today. Jackie, how are you doing? And what do you do around the AIX technology?
I'm doing great, actually. It's beautiful weather here. And around AIX, I basically work on remote installations, performance studies, AIX and Linux. I do a lot of work on VIO servers and also with Spectrum Scale, which of course I still call GPFS.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're very fortunate to have you here today. I know you're a busy person, and thank you for joining us. Next up, we have Alan Fulton. Alan, how are you today, and where are you broadcasting? Well, I guess it's obvious. Where are you broadcasting from?
Greetings and salutations. I am in the great state of New Jersey, which explains my accent. That's where we're at today. That's where we're at most of the time.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. And then let's go over to Dave Waddell.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm with Aero Electronics, IBM distributor and responsible for power systems. Great place to be here today. Thanks, Tom.
Awesome, Dave. Look forward to chatting with you a little later. And then let's go with Tommy over in Finland. Tommy, what do you do for AIX and IBM Power?
Hello, everyone, and greetings from, good evening from Finland. So I'm working in Tieto area and responsible for the power infra systems in overall in our company. So working with the HMCs and the hardware and also operating systems like AIX and Linux and Power. So.
All right. And then finally, we do have Rob McNally recording, and I was hoping to play that back for you today as he is on vacation, holiday, depending upon what part of the world you are, but having some technology difficulties with that. So I think what I'll do is I'll get our marketing team to include his video link as part of the follow-up back to you, because Rob's very well known in the industry. He's been writing magazine articles around the AIX technology, and he shares his best wishes to all of you. He wishes he could have been here live on the event, but unfortunately he can't make it today. So Rob worked for Meridian IT, and he also did a lot of writing in the past for the IBM magazine around power. So, and let's move over to our next guest. We got Prenessa from the IBM team herself. And Prenessa, what do you do for IBM?
Hi, my name is Prenessa. Oh, you did say my name. Well, I'm a product marketer for IBM Power Systems, and I'm also the champion program manager for our wonderful Power Champions.
Yeah. And you do a wonderful job. Thank you for acknowledging all of us and bringing us great content all along. Thank you. All right. And then myself, I'm Tom Huntington. I'm Executive Vice President of Technical Solutions, and I'm also an IBM Power Champion for the last 5 years. And I'm going to work more as a moderator here because my expertise is a little more on the IBM side. But boy, since joining the Power Champion program, I've learned a lot about AIX and very excited to be moderating this set of guest speakers that we have with us today. And first of all, we want to know about your background with AIX. So I'm going to launch up a little poll question here to find out what your experience is with the AIX platform. How many years of experience? Either 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 20, or you've been somebody who's been around the platform for a while, 21 plus years, and you'll probably relate to a lot of the things that we talk about when we talk about the past technology around AIX platform. And certainly then we'll talk about the future. We'll talk about modernization and cloud technology too today as we go through this webinar. So looking good. Looks like we've had a good portion of you already vote. So I'm going to close the poll, and we'll share that poll results here. And it looks like we have, let's see, a few new people with 6% with 1 to 2 years, but then a bulk of you, 54%, with 21+ years experience. Well, we really need to be minding our P's and Q's today because we got some great experienced people with the platform. So awesome for you to answer that polling question. All right, let's move on to our next item on the agenda, which is really to go through and we'll talk to each of these Power Champions to hear their story about what they've been doing with AIX technology. And first up, we have Jackie Lynch. Jackie comes to us. Well, how did you become an IBM Power Champion? Do you remember? Oh, and we got you muted, Jackie.
Actually, it was a bit of a surprise to me. One of my friends at IBM actually nominated me, and you know, I'm originally from New Zealand, and there was a surprise, but it was a very nice surprise. And then last year I got made a lifetime champion, which was really, really cool. So thank you.
I think the rest of us are envious, at least the ones who are not lifetime champions. So it's a big program, and IBM's done a great job of putting together the Power Champion or the IBM Champion program, and as there's many different facets of it. You know, what is the typical engagement that you do, Jackie, with AIX customers? What are some things that you've been working on?
So mostly I do remote work, but it's installations, performance studies for AIX, Linux, and VIO. I do a lot of design work, and as I said earlier, a lot of work with Spectrum Scale. Pretty much the only thing I don't tend to do is on-site physical installations. I do go on-site occasionally. I do a huge number of VIO server setups for IBM I clients, actually, even though I don't tend to work on IBM I, simply because VIO is so new. And I also do a lot of work on security and Active Directory integration. And one of the coolest things I did was work on moving a data center while I was on vacation in New Zealand. Actually moved a data center in the US, not the physical part. It's just incredible. If you have good internet access, you could do an awful lot of things.
Okay. So when you think about AIX and some of the things that you've worked on over the years, what do you think is one of your best memories with the AIX operating system? Man,
you know, I've been working on AIX since before 1993, and it's just been a massive change. I worked on a 40-node SP complex in the 90s, which was really cool. Then they brought out Power VM and bringing in real virtualization. And then I would be in an awful lot of trouble if I didn't mention what a difference NMON has made in my life, because I do a lot of performance work.
Okay.
And Nigel will hunt me down if I don't tell you how important that has been to me. So it's a lot of things. And the technologies that have come in AIX and the ability to run Linux, AIX, and IBM I all on the same box at the same time, they're great.
Yeah, it's something that people in the outside the industry don't always realize, is that you can run all three operating systems on the same hardware. And that's been going on for how many years now? 10 years probably, huh, Jackie, at least?
Oh yeah, I mean, it lets you, it's no longer an either or. You don't buy a box that's an IBM I box or a box that's a Linux box. You buy a power server and you run them all and they play well together.
Awesome. So as we look at, so that's kind of the past, as we look at what's going on today, what kind of modernization or cloud projects that you're working on today? What are you doing with the AIX?
So I've actually worked on a few of the IBM Power VS cloud projects now. And, it's been migrating people into the cloud, but also trying to get an understanding of the things that are important when you do that migration. For an administrator, we're all control junkies, right?
Yes,
and
of course.
You have to give up some control because you don't get access to the HMC or the VIO servers. So that's the first thing you have to get used to. And then people ignore capacity planning. And those are actually really important because there's just little things like if you need more virtual processors, you have to open a ticket to get that changed. You need to understand your IO requirements because a lot of the power vendors, and particularly IBM, use quality of service. And the way they do it is you get either 3 or 10 IOPS per gigabyte per disk. So I'm usually like lots and lots of spindles to get my IO performance. And
Sure.
I know IBM really likes that. But with the cloud, you actually have to look at how many IOPS you need per disk. And I've had a couple of cases where I've had to put in 700 gig LUNs for a 20 gig of data to get the IOPS that I need. So you really have to understand your workload when you're going into the cloud, more so than you might expect.
So capacity does matter when you consider power in the cloud.
Hugely.
Okay. So now as you've been working on that technology, what excites you about the future with AIX?
Well, obviously AIX 7.3. I can't wait to get on that and see what's in it. And then the new VIO servers. But I think the thing that really excites me is that IBM actually has a roadmap. And so I can see, for the most part, what's coming over the next few years, and I can plan accordingly and determine, you know, like I'm starting to install HMC CR2s now, the new HMC.
Okay.
That roadmap is really important. But cool new technology is the most exciting.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's the longevity of the platform is it speaks for itself, right? So the roadmap's very important. So if AIX was a person, how would you toast AIX here for the 35th anniversary?
So it's funny because I'm getting close to my 35th wedding anniversary. So
Okay.
I researched it, and it's the coral anniversary, but the gemstone is emeralds. So my toast would be, here's to 35 more, and thanks to the IBM team for such a great resilient product, and where is my emerald? That's my toast.
Oh, I guess everybody's going to be asking for their emerald, right? So
Yeah. Take a note,
Jackie,
Prenessa, emeralds.
And you know, Jackie, you're an icon in the AIX community or in power community. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way of finding you?
The best way to get a hold of me is by my email address. That's the one thing, because calling me by phone, I live on conference calls, I'm like the rest of us. So the best way is always email.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jackie. Hopefully you can hang on for a bit, and we'll probably have some questions for you later on.
Thank you.
All right, let's turn our attention to Mr. Alan Fulton, another fellow IBM champion from broadcasting live from New Jersey. Alan, how are you doing?
I am outstanding, and it's really my great pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. I know during COVID and stuff, you've kept kind of busy. How'd you keep yourself busy?
I'm in the northwest corner of New Jersey, so we do have the great opportunity to spend a lot of time outdoors. We're out in the hilly part of the state, not far from the Pennsylvania border. So there's a lot of outdoor activities, whether it's swimming or fishing or ATVs. One of the hobbies that I've been doing for the last decade and a half that did get cut short last year is, believe it or not, I run cars and demolition derbies.
Okay.
Because everybody needs a hobby. And last year with COVID going on, that was canceled. So we're looking forward to spinning that up again this year in your local fairs and whatnots.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So not only can you talk AIX, you can talk demolition derbies. I love it.
Yeah, never let any one thing define you.
That's very true. So, but speaking of AIX, what's your best memory on AIX? What's something that you're proud of or worked on over the years?
Probably a couple of the neatest things for takeaways from AIX came with Power 7. And as AIX rolled into Power 7 with virtualization, and the all power virtualization was morphed into Power VM, like Jackie said, that lets you run AIX and IBM i and RHEL on Power, Linux on Power, Ubuntu, and I think SUSE at the time, all on the same hardware. So it took that single chunk of iron and it made it much more versatile in your data center. And AIX was the huge component of that. In the past, you would have to order separate hardware for AIX or for IBM i, and they were maintained separately, oftentimes by different teams. So that collapse into virtualization was a huge piece for us. And then one of the bigger things as you look back into it was Power VC, where you're able to deploy VMs, AIX VMs, and then the same thing with Linux on Power or IBM i you could take the process of deploying a VM that, depending on your organization, may take weeks or months, and you could collapse that down into minutes with automation tools and technology. So being able to spit out an AIX VM fully populated within just a few minutes for your needs, for your developers or testers, or to roll into prod, was a huge win for people.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, and you get back to the bringing these teams together. To me, it broke down a lot of political barriers within IT and organizations. So it's been a great thing.
It really did. And the other thing that goes in with it was that backwards binary compatibility from AIX. You're talking binary compatibility that went back to AIX 3 and 4, that you could take that same chunk of code that you wrote in the mid-90s and still run it today. And that's fascinating in a lot of ways. You can't do that with so many other operating systems.
Yeah, it's technology protection, right? Your total cost of ownership goes down because of things like that. Yeah, very good point. So today we hear a lot about cloud and modernization. You know, what are some things that you've been working on in that space?
A couple of the neat things that we do with the on-prem clouds, again, collapsing all of the AIX and and Linux workloads into the same IBM infrastructure, is taking up the additional CPU cycles so that the iron stays hot.
Okay.
OpenShift. So in your on-prem cloud, in what you're building in your data center, that free capacity that you're not being utilized right now, OpenShift is making ways for containerization to go in there as well. We're looking forward to 7.3. Like Jackie mentioned, 7.3 is coming out. So that's going to bring some neat technology with it as it goes into 7.3 and Power 10. And then 7.3 with the new versions of virtual IO servers. Virtualization changed everything. AIX 7.3 is going to lynch right into that.
Awesome, awesome. So when you think about AIX, how would you toast it on its 35th anniversary?
Well, with the IBM servers and AIX, now that we're out of the 20 teens, the 2020s are going to make the 1990s look like the 1950s.
Okay.
And that would be my toast.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Al, for joining us. Hopefully you
Thank
two
you,
can
Al.
stick around for a little Q&A at the end. Awesome.
All right.
Great. Let's turn our attention over to Tommy in Finland, sitting in his backyard, showing us a beautiful nature scene over there. Tommy, how are you doing today?
Hello, Tom and others. I'm doing fine, thanks. So the midsummer is in Finland now, and it's really warm and nice. So it's great to be here at the moment, because usually it's quite dark and, let's say, cold in Finland, but not this time of the year. So
Right.
I'm really enjoying it.
Awesome. Good time of the year to get out of the data center. So how'd you become an IBM champion?
Yeah, that is a really good question, because looking at the other people on this meeting, for example, so all of those are legends in this world. So everybody in the AIX world knows Jack and Alan and these guys, and it's amazing to be in the same company. So to be honest, I'm not 100% sure how I got here, but I've been now IBM champion for 2 years in a row now, and I think the original nomination came from the IBM France Montpellier team, because I've been working quite a lot with them in the past, and most probably I've done some things right then.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes with the fact that the Power server is a worldwide server. The technology is used all over the world. So it's great to have you presenting from Finland. So what does Tito Every do? What does your team do?
Yeah, Tieto Every, we are a service provider operating mainly in the Nordics and the European level, but we do have some operations globally as well. But like I said, we are concentrated on the European markets and on the Nordics. So we are providing like IaaS services and digital consulting services on many different platforms like x86 and Power included. So I'm representing the Power platform in our company, and we do have like quite a lot of competence on that area in the Nordics, in Finland, Sweden, and Norway, and also on the Czech Republic. So we have a really strong and big team working on Power inside our company.
Awesome. So what's one of your best memories around the AIX hard technology?
Oh, there are very many. So I've been working like 20 years with AIX now. So I think one of the first good memories is the first time when with the Power 5, when I was able to create those micro partitions. That was something really cool.
Okay.
Then after that, when there was not much automatization on place, our Power team in Tieto that time, we built like homemade automatization for deploying AIX LPARs that time. So we automated everything, basically shell coded like profile creations and all the BIOS mappings and NIM operating system installations and all needed stuff. It was fully automated. And then we later did the same for example, LPM operations. So for our admins, we just had like a browser GUI home built, and you could click there and move your workloads from a frame to another with just one click, and everything behind was automated. So that was pretty cool that time.
That is all cool technology that we take for granted now. That's just part of the server today. So I'm sure with Tito Every, you're helping customers move to the cloud. What are some things that you're doing there from a modernization standpoint or migration purposes?
Yeah, you are correct. We have been doing quite a lot on that area, also on the power side. So what we have been building in the house is that we have built a private cloud solution that we call like Cloud on Power. So I think most of us know ServiceNow. So for our customers, there's a service channel where they can go and click, so to say, catalog items, so they can fill in the order, and we have automated all the stuff there behind. So when the customer clicks the catalog order, for example, deploying new AIX or Linux on Power Server, everything behind there is automated. So when he or she clicks the order button, it goes to our backend where we have Power VC and some other stuff, and it takes like 15 minutes, and the VM or LPAR is automatically deployed to our customer network. So that is something cool. And also our Power team is working for the public cloud offering. So we are working together with SkyTab to be able to enable public cloud or AIX in Azure offering to our customers.
Yeah, sounds like it's getting a little windy over there in Finland. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. How do we? What do you think about the future of AIX? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I need to be boring on this point and repeat the words from the other champions. So I'm really waiting for the next AIX version, and then what is cool is the commitment from the IBM. So it really looks good when they have the roadmap.
Yep. And then if you were to toast the AIX platform today and the operating system on its 35th anniversary, what would that be?
It would be like a glass of very good champagne and a short toast to say that keep as inspiring and sparkling for at least another 35 years. For me, like 20 years is enough because I'm looking for early retirement, but for the upcoming generations, I really hope it's like another 35 years for AIX as well.
Awesome. Looks like you're saying Prenessa is going to have a lot of more years ahead of her keeping this platform going. So that's exciting. And if you want to contact Tommy, he's with Tito Every. You can certainly find them out on the website doing a lot of managed services for the Nordic countries. Thank you, Tommy.
Exactly.
And we'll move on to our next. Thank you. Our next candidate, Dave Waddell. Dave, I think you're broadcasting live today from the Atlanta, Georgia area. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Good morning. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Atlanta. It's, I would say, probably a little bit warmer here than it is in Finland, where Tommy is, but it's summer in Atlanta.
Summer in Atlanta, Atlanta, right? So how'd you become an IBM Power Champion, Dave?
Well, I came into this a little bit different than the rest of the panel did. I've been on sales and marketing activities for the last few years and was nominated by our team that supports Arrow. Arrow is a distributor, so we work with a lot of different business partners out in the community. How do we bring power, AIX, the different enablement opportunities, training sessions, that sort of things out into the broader community.
Awesome. So I'm sure you have, in being in sales, I'm sure you've had some challenges over the years with technology. What are some of your greatest memories around the platform?
Well, I've been around AIX for at least 25 of the years that AIX has been around, for 35. Prior to joining Arrow, I actually worked with an end user, so I had some hands-on experience that rolled into this. And way back then, it was AIX 4.2 and the RS6000 platform. I think I saw in one of the comments someone mentioned the RS6000. We all have fond memories of those very bulky, big, single-threaded systems that really were the platform started 35 years ago. It's exciting to see all the growth and the changes. As Jackie and Alan had mentioned, we get to all the different multi-threading, LPARs, Power BC, all of these different solutions that have been built on that platform that we saw 35 years ago. So it's just been fabulous seeing the development, and now all of that is what laid the groundwork for hybrid cloud, for being on-prem, off-prem, the different offerings that we have today that all kind of fit together.
Yeah. So speaking of offerings, what does Arrow do for the Power server family or ecosystem?
Yeah, so Arrow is a global technology of products, services, and solutions, better known as a distributor. So we remarket, distribute IBM products, storage, power systems, IBM maintenance, IBM services, all the software suites out into the business partner community. And I'm responsible for power systems for North America for Arrow.
Wow. So that comes with a lot of challenges. So hats off to you, David, for being able to do that. So speaking of modernization and cloud, what are some things you're seeing there from the install base or from business partners that are looking at moving customers to the cloud? Any things there?
Yeah, it's a really cool time right now with Red Hat being in the mix, with the options that we have with OpenShift, with Power VS that's available. It creates a different way that power can exist in the infrastructure. There's so many more options now than there used to be. If you've got a cloud strategy, we've got a solution for that. If you need to keep it on-prem, there's a solution for that. If there's a combination of fitting these different pieces together where you need that edge computing with a very high throughput, we can fit into that also. So there's a lot of different functionality that comes from the Power platform, along with fitting together the IBM i solutions. It's been mentioned a couple of times. It can all run on the same box, around with Linux solutions, different Linux instances, all within the same platform, all within the same family. With the changes that have rolled out, it's been very exciting to see that move forward.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really great point about mentioning that, cloud is not always in the cloud. Sometimes it's on premise and building out, cloud infrastructure. And certainly Power has been fantastic for that, because customers have been doing that for years, or business powers, businesses and banking and insurance kind of running as a cloud infrastructure.
Yeah, to your point there, that's a really good, I'll steal a line from someone who I can't remember who it said, but cloud is a way of doing business, not as a destination. So if you think of it as how can you get the most availability at the best throughput, with treating cloud as a way of doing business, of managing your infrastructure. I think that's a really good point, Tom.
Yeah, and I think it's a big part of what's helped organizations on Power get through COVID, is being able to have their workforce remotely and depend on a system that's very scalable and can keep up with new demands that are coming in remotely into the server. Yeah. So what excites you about the future with AIX, Dave?
Well, it's the continuing on of what we're seeing today. All this work that IBM has done, we have a roadmap that's out into the future. It's great to see the roadmap. I'm excited about Power 10 coming out and the new capabilities that we'll see embedded into this. There are, I would expect there'll be quite a few new features that we haven't seen previewed yet. So I'm very much looking forward to that as that rolls out in the near future here. And as we see the modernization with AIX also, there's a lot of applications that run on AIX. There are other containerized applications that fit right into the same hardware solution envelope with AIX, with IBM I. And that continued capability to be able to take advantage of the performance that we see with Power Systems hardware, with the performance improvements, the different capabilities around AIX, and again with OpenShift and Red Hat. How do we really leverage that to be able to grow this platform where it's meaningful out into the cloud? It's just wide open with on-prem, Power VS. The whole hybrid strategy just plays very, very well as we look into the future.
Awesome. So thank you, Dave, for those comments. What's your toast for the AIX operating system here in its 35th anniversary?
I would go with very simple, that here's to another 35 years. We've got a lot of future ahead.
That's very true, very true. And if somebody wants to contact you, Dave, what's the best way of getting a hold of you?
Best way is email at dwaddell@arrow.com.
Okay, and you're also on LinkedIn. All these fine Power Champions are very active on LinkedIn and Twitter, and it's part of what makes a Power Champion is to be promoting things socially around the globe. And so thanks, Dave, for joining us. And as I said earlier, we did have a pre-recording with Rob McNally. Unfortunately, some technology glitches in playing his audio today. But I think the biggest thing that Rob brought out in the conversation, if I kind of think about when we spoke a few weeks ago, was just the whole concept of live partition mobility. And when that technology came out, it became a game changer for the Power customers and the ability to move workload from one VM to another while individuals are still doing their day job and they don't even notice it. And that technology is available for Power servers, for Linux, for AIX, and IBM I. So, and then Rob also said, hats off to another 35 years. And I guess it puts a lot of pressure on our next guest, which is Prenessa from IBM, to talk about the future of AIX and the anniversary of 35 years. Prenessa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Tom. Thank you. So thank you for everyone joining in. What a great discussion from our panelists. As Tom mentioned, we're celebrating 35 years. It's important for IBM to acknowledge the AIX community. You're the reason we're still invested and committed to this platform. And we look forward to the next 35 years. As Tommy mentioned, or I can't remember who, but my generation is going to have to continue that on because they may be, in Finland on the lake, retired or whatever. But yeah, so thank you so much. And 35 years more as this platform continues to transform for your IT needs. Next slide, Tom. So as the panelists mentioned, the roadmap is really key in that we do provide a roadmap. And as you can see here, we are committed and invested in this platform. As we have AIX 7.3 coming later this year, you can tell that we're still going to be investing and innovating for this platform. So this is the most current roadmap for AIX. And like I said, it does include 7.3, which will be available at the end of the year. And as we enter a new era for AIX, we'll continue to support the emerging technologies our customers' future work depends on. And as you see here, and we announced this in February with the statement of direction, that we will be having new growth to our platform and coming to your data center in 4Q 2021, we'll have the new generation AIX 7.3 that will come out. And it will deliver enhancements in these 4 areas and more to come as well: resiliency, security, and that scale that's needed to get your IT environment hybrid cloud ready. And then just finally, our focus this year is to really shape AIX around the hybrid cloud strategy. So Tom will be sharing you this presentation, so feel free to click all of these links to kind of understand more about the strategy and what we've done, the strategy paper, the IDC vendor spotlight, and then some awesome, 35th anniversary caveats from Stephen Leonard and also the Tech Channel article that we did. And then, as the community, we love to tell your story out there and how, AIX has shaped your company. So please feel free to email me. When you click my name, that is my email if you're interested in IBM telling your story publicly on how you've been able to transform with AIX. And then I've also just included a few of our education links. We do have our AIX certification program that is available now. And if you're interested in being a speaker at TechU, Call for Speakers is open. Or if you're just willing to kind of learn some more, all of the TechU sessions are on demand and they're the TechU talks. And then lastly, here are just some more additional links that you can visit from our homepage to the community just to learn more about AIX.
Prenessa, I think education is such a huge part. TechU in the fall, when is that and what's the format for that?
Yeah, so TechU will be October 25th through the 28th. I believe those are our new dates. If you've seen others, we did move it back and it is online. So please feel free to join. The link will take you there to the site so you can register. Or again, right now we're call for speakers. So if you're interested in leading a session, please feel free to submit one.
Yeah, and I think the other point on this is customer stories. Customer stories really makes the world go round. I know each of us, we're either a customer or a business partner, and being able to share those, I can't encourage you enough to have that passion to step forward and share what your organization's doing with the Power server, whether it's AIXI or Linux on Power. That really helps out the IBM team. So thank you, Prenessa, on that. And then from a help systems perspective, we are a Power provider of software in the industry, both for cybersecurity and automation. We've been helping customers out with things like antivirus on the AIX platform and managed file transfer, and then of course penetration testing and privileged user access and all those kinds of things that go along with cybersecurity challenges that we have today. On the automation front, we've heard a lot about automation. You'll hear a lot from Ansible and Red Hat in that regards, but at Help Systems, we also do a lot of, Jackie talked about capacity planning for the cloud and making sure that your infrastructure, when you go to the cloud, is going to run like you expect it to run. So we help customers out with that using the NMON technology. We also do enterprise scheduling, the network monitoring and OS monitoring, things like that, and play in the arena of robotic process automation. That's what Help Systems does, and promoting and helping customers with both cybersecurity and automation around the AIX platform. So off to our last polling question before we have an open mic and have an opportunity to even ask more questions of these Power Champions. Let's bring up our next polling question. And that's purely just a question around if you're interested in any of these offerings or areas of enterprise scheduling, monitoring, capacity planning, and or one of the things I do a lot with customers, and I encourage my business partners that are with me today, is just having one-off what we call Help Systems technology updates. Of course, they could be an Aero technology update or whatever. We spend time talking with our customers and spending time understanding what's on your roadmap and sharing our roadmaps in a one-on-one kind of conversation. And I encourage all the other vendors that are with us today, if you haven't done that with some of your key customers, you really need to do that. And then of course, cybersecurity, it's not going to go away during the pandemic. The bad actors, as we say, have even gotten more active, and certainly we need to make sure that we are in control when it comes to cybersecurity. So I want to thank you for just leave that up for just a moment. It looks like there's a few more people that are answering this question. Jackie, the other day when we were talking, you talked a bit about keeping OS levels up to date and HMCs up to date, and why is that important? What are some of the things that you're running into in the industry around that?
So one of the really powerful things about the Power servers is that they run forever. And sometimes with a VIO server, for instance, people won't reboot it or upgrade it because it's working. And then I'm the poor person that goes in and goes, oh, it hasn't been rebooted for 794 days. Yay. So the things that you run into are, number one, things go what we call end of service pack support. Whether it's hardware or software, what that means is that you pretty much get break fix or only security patches. But the real issue is you place a call to IBM and they tell you that you're at firmware X or you're at VIO server 22621, and the problem that you have was fixed in the latest version. And basically the answer is upgrade firmware, upgrade VIO, etc. You don't want to be doing that in an emergency. You want to be able to do these proactively. So I always recommend to my customers that they have a 6-monthly patch cycle where they do a full round for HMC, then firmware, then VIOs, and then operating system to avoid that issue. Because it's pretty ugly when you get there in an emergency and you suddenly find that in order to upgrade the server firmware to fix the problem you have, you also have to upgrade your HMC, etc., because these all go together. And plus there's all the new functions and features that you get with the new versions. So the other thing that I also talk to people about is backups, which is part of this whole patch cycle.
Sure.
If you religiously back up your VIO server, as an example, every month to tape, and you cycle those tapes out, let's say after 7 backups, but you don't reboot for 794 days, those backups are no good to you if somebody corrupted the boot image 365 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure that you at least do a reboot within your backup window before the backups cycle out.
Yeah, and there's such a huge cost of being out of date. I mean, it's gonna bite you sooner or later. And
Always does.
Yeah, it's not just the recovery and downtime costs, it's also the older the server, the more IBM will charge you for maintenance. If you're running old software, then you're going to pay more for maintenance. And that's just break fix. So plus you don't get all the benefits. It's much easier to plan for the upgrades, plan for the patching at least, and stay as current as you can within reason. I don't want to be the person on my production system that upgrades to the very, very latest VIO the day it comes out.
Yeah.
I like to wait at least 2 days.
Yeah.
So
Tommy, over in your space, a lot of people probably don't realize all the different industries that power plays a big role in. Do you want to comment on some of the customers that you work with from a Finland perspective and around the Nordic countries?
Yeah, you are totally correct. So I think there's still some kind of like vision or that power is something exotic and it's like old-fashioned or something, but it's not true at all, because we do have on Tietoevry, we have like customers in the retail sector, in the finance sector, in the insurance company. So in very many types of customers that we are providing services on the Power Platform. So it's really useful for everyone basically. And if there are some doubts that if there's something that I could utilize on the power system, we are able to provide, for example, a free of charge workshop to our customers. So anybody who's basically interested in and seeing if our solutions on power would bring some benefits or TCO savings or whatever. So what we are saying always that the solutions that we are doing is like a 3S solution. So it's secure, stable, and scalable. So it gives all the good features that one needs for a business critical environment. So I really recommend for all customers to take a look on the Power Platform.
Very true, very true. Last month, we did the AIX community survey results as a webinar, and that was the 5th year, and that does a good breakdown on industry and geographics around power. And, Europe has, as many power servers as you see across the North America market, for example. So Alan, I know you're a big fan of Power VC. Why is that? How do you use it? What's the benefit there?
Power VC gets me super excited, honestly. It's true though, because years ago, like everybody else on this call, so many people have been using AIX for decades, maybe a quarter of a century, maybe a little bit more. Building machines, and I don't want to call them VMs because in the beginning they weren't VMs, right? They were LPARs. You physically carved up physical portions of a machine and put the operating system on it, put AIX on it, whether you loaded it from tape or from CD, or eventually the media got to DVD. It took time. And then as time go on and you went into virtualization, where you got to put more and more multiple virtual machines, they were still calling them LPARs at the time, on the same chunk of iron, then it became more to manage. So if you were going to carve out your VM, say, on a IBM hardware, you would have to get together with your Ethernet adapters, your network adapters, your virtual SCSI adapters, your NPIV adapters for fiber connectivity, then carve up your CPU and your memory, then load your image on it and put on your network addresses and any other tooling and things after the fact. It became a long time running. And then if you were in an organization that had a different silo for storage, or it had a different silo for networking, these processes and procedures added onto that build time. So you could literally spend weeks to spit out a VM. And what happened with that is, it became cumbersome, it became heavy, and it became prohibitive to the people that we wanted to serve, right? Our users, whether it's the ultimate users that are using a production VM, or it's our people in the alpha beta region that are developing code and testing code. There are customers internally that are using those items. So to be able to spit out a VM with Power VC, and what that did was Power VC came along and says, hey, I can do all that stuff for you if you let me be the tool for that job. So it has control of the CPU and the memory and the networking and the storage. And then it looks at your image and says, okay, I'm going to take that image and I'm going to build all the stuff that you used to spend sometimes weeks on, right, through different parts of your organization, and kick that out in minutes, so that from start to finish on a particular VM, 3, 5, 10 minutes to go from I need a VM to I have a VM and I can log on and start being productive. That's huge.
Yeah. And I think about the administrative cost of that, right? Or lack of cost, right? At Help Systems, and a lot of people don't realize it, but we have about 500 VMs of AIX, IBM I, and Linux running on Power. We have one person that basically is responsible for creating those images and managing that environment, and that's what they're using, is the Power VC, and it's been wonderful. So Dave, let's turn our attention to the customer. Maybe there's a customer out there today that is not engaged with their hardware reseller or their business partner on Power. What would you suggest they do, or how do they get started with getting re-engaged? To Jackie's point, getting the server updated, getting to a new level, maybe going from Power 6 or Power 7, getting up to Power 9, and then of course Power 10 down the road here. So how does somebody get re-engaged?
Sure, there's a variety of ways to get engaged with a reseller through IBM, through the regional IBM reps that would potentially support your account. You can find a lot of us, as you mentioned earlier, out on LinkedIn. That all of us that are on the phone here have LinkedIn profiles, could be contacted that way. So that's a couple of good routes. There's a couple of great options if you haven't thought of. And if you're looking at moving to the cloud, we have Power in the cloud now. AIX runs in the IBM cloud. There is the on-premises opportunities to be able to upgrade, plus other solutions that are out there. If there are different Linux applications, things that you're running in containers, all that can be supported on Power around AIX. So to make this progress, you can reach out to your IBM rep, reach out to Arrow, reach out to any of us on the phone, and we can help you find the right resource to get engaged to update, upgrade, or make whatever the appropriate updates would need to be to your system there. So we all look forward to helping you.
Awesome, thanks, Dave. Any final closing comments or things that people like? Maybe I'll just go around instead of having people talk over each other. Prenessa, anything else for the AIX community?
Oh, I was on mute for a second. No, I don't have anything else. I'm very excited that you all joined, and that's pretty much all I have. Please feel free to look at those assets though and share, learn, and amplify those for sure.
It's all about the education, isn't it? Tommy up in Finland, thank you for joining us. Any final closing thoughts from your end on AIX?
Thanks. This was a real pleasure, and I'm really happy and honored to be with these persons here. So nothing more at this point.
Thank you. And Jackie?
Yeah, like Tommy, it's actually a privilege to be a champion and to be here. And I'm excited for the future. AIX is going to rock.
Awesome. I love it. How about you, Alan?
It is a privilege. I'm excited to be here as well, like everybody else, right? It's a smaller, tight community of people within AIX. And for everyone on here, feel free to reach out to me. My email's in there, or get me on Twitter. I love sharing information. Together, we all learn, right? We're constantly making each other smarter about the technologies out there. So please engage me on that.
It's at Ironmonger.
I am at the Ironmonger on Twitter, or you can reach me on alan.j.fulton@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Thank you. And David, how about you?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a privilege to be with this group. I think I'm looking forward to Tech Talks and Tech U that will be coming up here soon. And I would expect to see a lot of the folks we're seeing here today presenting at those events. So looking forward to more education as that rolls out later this year.
Yep. Well, thank you all. On behalf of the Health Systems team, a big thank you to my fellow Power Champions and to IBM for coming forward and saying, hey, let's do an event like this. And it's been wonderful. Hope to see you all in the near future when we can get back out to some events, maybe not yet this fall, but I'm sure in the spring of 2022, we'll be getting together at IBM Think, IBM Tech U, and other events. Have a great summer. Enjoy the day. And thank you again for your time on today's webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.